In a world full of empty promises, one night changed how everything was seen. Israel, long seen as an unbeatable force, watched its skies get pierced by Iranian missiles, and with those explosions, the silence that had surrounded the Muslim world for years was finally broken. This was more than just a military move. It was a loud statement, a statement of strength, honor, and awareness. What you're about to hear isn't just another report, it's the truth they never wanted you to know. The truth the media hides. The truth that division tried to erase. This isn't just about Iran and Israel, it's about the whole Muslim Ummah. It's the cry from Gaza, from Palestine, from Syria, Kashmir, Burma. Everywhere that blood was shed and voices were ignored. And now one nation stood up, not for fame, but for a reason. In this video, you will hear what many are scared to hear. You will see what the media tries to hide, and you will start to understand what might just bring a broken nation back together. So, don't look away. Watch till the very end. Every moment, every sentence could open your eyes to something deeper. This is not just the truth, it's a tough reality that might change everything. For many years, Israel built an image of being untouchable. With advanced technology, full support from the US, and strong intelligence, it looked like a fortress no one could ever reach. The Iron Dome wasn't just defense, it became a symbol of strength and pride. Israel placed itself as the ruler of the region, warning anyone not to step out of line. But then, in one night, that picture cracked. The belief in its endless power was broken, not by massive numbers, but by smart action. Iran didn't need to destroy everything, it just needed to hit the right targets at the right moment with the right message. And that's what it did. The world watched as missiles cut through layer after layer of defense, not by chance, but with sharp accuracy. These strikes didn't just damage buildings, they shook the belief that Israel was always far ahead. For the first time in many years, the sirens in Israeli cities weren't part of a drill. The fear became real. The Iron Dome, Israel's pride, failed. The same system, shown to the world as flawless, proved it had limits. Just a few well-placed hits were enough to make people question everything they thought they knew about Israel's strength. The sense of superiority faded. In its place came shock, silence, and confusion. This wasn't about borders or politics. It was about mindset. Israel had kept others in fear through its image. It didn't always need to fight. People just had to believe they couldn't win. That belief, more than any wall or weapon, is what got shattered. Iran didn't just send missiles, it sent bravery. It pushed back against the idea that Israel could do anything without consequence. Iran didn't respond with loud words, it replied with smart, planned moves, the kind that even the strongest have to think twice about. For some, it was just another battle, but for others watching closely, it was a major shift, a moment when things started to turn, like David standing up to Goliath. Not with a stone, but with courage and perfect timing. Israel's image took a hit, and with that hit came something deeper, doubt. Doubt in the minds of its strongest supporters, doubt in the West's confidence, doubt in the hearts of those who thought resistance was pointless. Because once the so-called invincible is struck, the whole game changes. This is what happens when pride meets reality, when arrogance is faced with strategy. Iran didn't wipe out Israel that night, but it did something far more powerful. It exposed the lie. It showed the world that even the strongest can bleed. And that gave hope to every people, every group, every soul that had stayed quiet under the pressure of false strength. That night became like a mirror, and in that mirror, the world didn't see Israel's greatness. It saw its limits. When Iran launched those missiles, it wasn't just a war move, it was a message written in the language of power. Every missile, every hit, every second, it was all carefully planned. This wasn't chaos, it was purpose. Iran wasn't acting out of anger, it was saying something loud and clear, that dignity, respect, and fairness are not up for negotiation, that when lines are crossed, silence is not the only response, that the oppressed have a voice too, and sometimes that voice is as loud as thunder. For years, Iran faced punishments, warnings, and media lies. But this moment wasn't about revenge. It was about standing proud again. Iran's action wasn't about showing off. It was a statement. We see what's going on, and we are no longer afraid. This wasn't war for the sake of war. It was defense mixed with courage. Iran understood the risks. It knew what could come next. Yet it still chose to rise because, in some moments, bravery matters more than caution. History remembers the ones who stood their ground even when the world looked away. Iran didn't do this for praise. It did it to open eyes, to shake the world out of its pretend silence, to make people feel the truth buried under politics and media spin. Iran's message also reached the Muslim world. It was a wake-up call, a jolt to the nations that stayed silent. It wasn't just a strike, it was a reminder that resistance isn't just possible, it's necessary. That justice doesn't ask quietly, it demands what's right. Injustice has gone on too long, hidden under words like peace and diplomacy, while children die and homes turn to rubble. Iran's message was loud and clear. The days of one-sided suffering are over. The story no longer belongs to the powerful, it belongs to those brave enough to stand, even if standing comes with risk. To the West, Iran's message was sharper still. It said, "We hear your warnings, but we are not scared." It said, "You can try to break us with money, but you cannot break our will." The attack didn't just expose weaknesses in defense systems. It revealed cracks in morality. It made Western powers question themselves. It made them wonder if they still hold control. It reminded them that while they were busy spinning stories, others were quietly preparing for moments like this. This wasn't just about Iran. It was about every unheard cry, every unmarked grave, every mother who buried her child under bombs labeled as peace. Iran spoke for all of them. And by doing that, it rewrote the rules, not just of war, but of truth. Because sometimes the most powerful message isn't spoken in words, it's the silence that breaks through the lies. When Iran launched its missiles toward Israeli targets, something even louder than explosions echoed around the world. Silence. Not peaceful silence, but nervous, heavy silence, the kind of silence that shows people are too afraid to admit the truth. When the news spread, there were no emergency meetings held by Western leaders, no hashtags, no global statements of support, no voices shouting about freedom and justice. The media moved carefully. The leaders stayed quiet. And in that quietness, something huge was revealed. The world wasn't ready. They never imagined Iran would really act and succeed. For years, the story was simple. Israel was always in control, always protected, always leading. Iran was painted as the outsider, the unstable one, always cornered. But that night flipped the story upside down. Iran hit with purpose. And the usual responses didn't work. There was no quick team of allies, no easy defense, just shock. And that silence spoke volumes. The West didn't know what to say. A strong Iran and a shaken Israel wasn't part of their plan. That silence wasn't weakness. It was exposure. It showed how deep the lies had gone. The The same governments that speak so loudly when their friends are threatened said nothing now. The same leaders who demand justice when the West is hurt suddenly chose to wait. But those watching, Muslims, the oppressed, the forgotten, they saw everything clearly. They saw the double standards. When Gaza is attacked, excuses are made. But when the other side responds, the world falls silent. That silence didn't cover the truth. It made it clearer. It revealed who truly stands for fairness and who only pretends to when it's convenient. That silence was also filled with fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of sparking something they can't stop. Fear that if Iran could strike, others might follow. Fear that the balance of power might finally be shifting. That fear froze them, and in that frozen moment, Iran didn't just hit Israel, it hit the system built to protect it. That silence, that was the sound of a story breaking apart. It was the moment the mask slipped, and the world saw that even the loudest voices can fall quiet when truth crashes through. A space was left behind, and every nation ignored, every people punished for trying to stand with honor, felt it. That silence became the clearest form of justice, a justice the West couldn't ignore, a moment too powerful to be hidden by headlines or forgotten in political games. They had to face it. And in doing so, they showed how uncomfortable they were with a truth they could no longer ignore, because silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it means accepting a truth they never wanted to admit. When Iran responded, it didn't just shake Tel Aviv, it sent waves through the Arab world. It disturbed every quiet capital, every leader who had grown used to comfort, and every country that had made peace with the same system that once broke the silence. For years, injustice went unchecked. Many Arab governments picked deals over resistance, silence over unity, and agreements over dignity. They watched Gaza burn, saw children buried under rubble, witnessed history being rewritten by the West, and said nothing. Some even praised Israel behind closed doors, thinking that standing with the strong might keep them safe. But when Iran launched those missiles, the silence across the world suddenly felt heavier. That silence turned into a mirror, showing the deep sense of betrayal felt by the Muslim people. Iran's move wasn't only against Israel, it was a direct message to the Arab governments that turned their backs while Palestine wept. It exposed the fear of those who claimed to lead in Islam's name but stayed quiet while wrongs were happening. It showed that while skyscrapers were rising and agreements were signed, the soul of the Muslim Ummah was crying not for wealth but for justice. Iran didn't only fire weapons, it fired belief. And that belief embarrassed those who had already given up. The Arab streets didn't get angry at Iran, they were filled with respect. People remembered what dignity feels like, what it means to stand up for honor, to say no to injustice even if you stand alone. That night, millions of Arabs saw something their leaders haven't shown in years: real courage. Not the kind that waits for approval from the West, but the kind that speaks out when others are silent, the kind that faces wrong instead of hiding from it. And that's why Arab leaders stayed quiet. Their replies were soft, careful, uneasy, because Iran did something they never dared to do. It stood up to the global order. It faced a nuclear-backed state. It broke the myth that Israel couldn't be touched. And in doing that, it made every quiet leader look smaller and weaker. It brought hidden truths into the light. The strike didn't ask for anyone's permission. It didn't follow polite diplomatic steps. It acted. And that act brought back something many thought was gone, a feeling of strength, unity, and resistance. Iran reminded the Arab world that the struggle for justice is not over, and those who walked away from it are falling behind. The youth in the streets saw it, scholars in exile saw it, refugees in tents saw it, and now even the quiet rulers must face it. This wasn't just a battle. It was truth being revealed. Truth that broke through oil deals and fake smiles at global meetings. Truth that no government can hide forever. Because no matter how many walls they build, no matter how many papers they sign, they can't stop the next generation from seeing what's real, from understanding who truly stands for justice in Palestine and who only stands for their own power. After Iran's missile launch, something surprising happened, not on the ground, but on millions of screens. Western media, which usually reacts fast and loud to anything that doesn't fit their version of events, slowed down. The headlines didn't shout terrorism like they often do. Talk shows didn't rush to condemn Iran like before. For a moment, there was quiet. Confusion. The media machine didn't know how to spin it quickly enough. And in that moment, something big broke. It wasn't just the silence. It was the end of the idea that they still controlled the whole story. The West has long used its media to twist facts, to hide what's real, and to shape how people think. But now, that power is slipping. And for the first time in a long while, the world started asking, what if Iran isn't the bad guy they say it is? This didn't mean Iran was suddenly seen as perfect. It meant the truth was too obvious to cover up. The accuracy of the strike, Iran's calm public message, and Israel's clear weakness made the usual lies harder to push. This wasn't wild chaos. It was smart and measured. It wasn't random. It was focused resistance. The videos, the figures, the images, they told a story too clear to distort. And when the media couldn't spin it quickly, they showed silence, or they tried to ignore it, or they showed their bias more openly than ever. But people saw it in Europe, in America, in the East and West. People looked beyond the noise. This wasn't about just one night. It was the result of many years of rising doubt in mainstream news. From Iraq to Syria to Palestine, people have watched the truth be buried while lies took the stage. But now, with social media, with honest voices, with reporters on the ground, that monopoly is breaking apart. And this missile strike? It made that crack wider. People started asking harder questions. If they lie about this, what else have they lied about? Why are Muslim deaths treated like numbers? Why is standing up called terrorism only when Muslims do it? Iran didn't just hit a military base. It struck at the trust people had in a system built to control how the world thinks. And in that system, the real power comes from shaping emotions and reactions. So when the media loses that control, when people stop believing everything they hear, that's when the truth starts to rise. And that's why the silence from Western media was dangerous to them, because in that quiet moment, people had time to think, to listen to new voices, to see other views, and most importantly, to feel a truth that had been hidden for decades. Iran's move wasn't just about missiles. It was about breaking the lie. It was a clear strike at the story they told the world. And for Muslims, it meant even more. It showed how broken the idea of justice has become. It reminded them that truth doesn't need anyone's approval. It only needs courage to be spoken and clarity to be seen. And whether the world admits it or not, they saw it. When Iran launched those missiles, it wasn't just about military strategy. It lit a spark deep inside the Muslim world, a spark that was close to going out. For years, Muslims have been divided by borders, weakened by politics, and split by labels like Sunni and Shia, Arab and Persian, traditional and modern. These were divisions pushed by outsiders to keep Muslims apart. But when Iran responded, something powerful happened. From Morocco to Malaysia, From Cairo to Karachi, Muslims look past those labels, social media filled with support, streets filled with voices, not praising Iran, but lifting Muslim pride. It felt like the whole Ummah remembered who they are. Not defeated, just ignored, not broken, just waking up. This wasn't about liking war or wanting revenge. It was about wanting honor. For decades, Muslims have watched their people be crushed in Palestine, silenced in Kashmir, pushed out of Syria, jailed in China, and mocked by Western media, while their own leaders said nothing. But on this night, when everyone thought Iran would stay quiet, it spoke. And by speaking, it gave a voice to millions who couldn't. Whether people agreed politically or not, the message was clear: you are not forgotten. You are not weak. You are not alone. What followed wasn't a treaty or alliance. It was a shared emotion. The old religious and ethnic divisions started to fade. People didn't care about who was Sunni or Shia. They saw a Muslim country standing up to decades of injustice and unfair treatment in a world that keeps saying Muslims are too divided to come together. This moment proved that was wrong. It showed that when oppression crosses the line, the heart of Islam beats stronger than any wall or label. The result of this shift runs deep. It reached Muslim youth who have grown up watching their lands attacked and their voices silenced. It told them the Muslim world isn't gone, that bravery still exists, that true strength doesn't always wear a suit or sit in a palace. Sometimes strength is in those who rise when everyone else sits down. Iran's move reminded people that a united Muslim world has power and a divided one is easy to crush. It showed that something stronger than a missile is possible. People waking up, because when hearts come together, when purpose returns, when Muslims stop treating each other like strangers and start acting like family, the world shifts. Iran's actions weren't just about Israel. They were about waking up a sleeping soul. And now the world is witnessing that awakening again. What we're seeing isn't just the fall of lies, it's the rise of something real. Iran's response to Israel wasn't just war, it was a loud message to a world that has been blind and silent. It didn't only show weak defenses, it revealed weak stories. It reminded quiet rulers that history doesn't praise cowards. It remembers those who stood tall when they were expected to bow. And more than anything, it lit a flame inside every Muslim. A flame of honor, of unity, of resistance. A flame the oppressors thought they had put out long ago. But now, it's burning brighter than ever. This moment, this awakening, is proof that no matter how dark things get, truth cannot stay hidden forever. Iran may have fired the weapon, but what echoed across the globe was the voice of millions, the oppressed, the forgotten, and the seekers of justice rising together with one message: enough is enough. And that message has just begun to shake the world. Thank you for choosing truth, for seeing beyond headlines, and for keeping your heart close to justice. This is more than a video, it's a call. A call to rise, to speak, to act. May Allah guide us to unity, wisdom, and strength. Stay strong, and never forget, when the world doubts you, stand firm, because truth always finds its way.